Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the next 5 mornings of your life could completely transform your future? The greatest minds throughout history have discovered that the human mind, when properly directed in those critical first moments after waking, possesses a remarkable power that few ever harness. I speak not of mere motivational fancy, but of concrete principles that have created fortunes and reshaped destinies. Napoleon Hill, after studying 500 of the world's most successful individuals for over 20 years, uncovered this extraordinary truth. Success leaves clues, and the most vital of these clues can be found in how we program our minds during those golden moments when consciousness first returns to us at daybreak. This is not theory, but verified fact. The same process that transformed ordinary individuals into industrial titans, visionary inventors, and world-changing leaders throughout the centuries. Have you ever wondered why some individuals seem to attract success effortlessly, while others struggle despite equal or superior talents? The answer lies not in circumstance or luck, but in something far more fundamental: the daily mental habits that either empower or sabotage your creative faculties. What most people fail to realize is that their circumstances today are the direct result of thoughts they've habitually entertained in days past. The mind, like any fertile soil, will grow whatever seeds are planted within it with unwavering faithfulness. Those who understand this principle know that the first moments after waking represent the most fertile soil, when the subconscious mind is most receptive to new programming and when old, limiting beliefs can be most effectively replaced. This is the precious window of opportunity when your mental guards are lowered and new thought patterns can be established with minimal resistance, a phenomenon Napoleon Hill observed repeatedly among those who had risen from obscurity to extraordinary achievement. Consider for a moment what your life would be like if you possessed absolute control over your mental attitude regardless of external circumstances. Imagine awakening each morning with a burning desire so powerful that obstacles appear as mere stepping stones rather than barriers. This is not wishful thinking, but the practical application of mental laws as certain as gravity. The most successful men and women throughout history, from Andrew Carnegie to Thomas Edison to Henry Ford, all practiced specific morning rituals that aligned their conscious and subconscious minds toward their definite major purpose. They understood that thought is the only agency through which one can shape invisible forces of opportunity and translate them into visible, tangible success. Carnegie, who rose from impoverished immigrant to the richest man in America, attributed his ascent not to fortunate circumstances, but to his mastery of his mental state, particularly during those first waking moments when his mind was most impressionable and receptive to programming. What I am about to share with you is not another superficial morning routine that merely adjusts your schedule. Rather, it is a profound philosophical approach to reprogramming your entire mental framework during those critical first 5 minutes when your mind transitions from the subconscious state of sleep to the conscious state of wakefulness. This practice, when followed faithfully for just 5 consecutive days, will begin to dissolve the mental barriers that have kept you confined to mediocrity and limited achievement. It will silence the inner voice of negativity that whispers impossible whenever you contemplate your greatest dreams, replacing it with an unshakable faith in your own creative powers. Napoleon Hill called this the process of auto-suggestion, the deliberate feeding of constructive thought impulses to your subconscious mind until these new patterns become your dominant reality. First internally and then externally through what he termed the law of harmonious attraction. The principle I am about to reveal operates with mathematical certainty, yet remains unknown to 97% of humanity who drift through life without direction, their untapped potential lying dormant within them. Napoleon Hill discovered that all achievement, all earned wealth, begins with a clear mental picture held persistently in mind, a definite major purpose backed by burning desire. But he also discovered something equally important. This mental picture must be implanted during specific times when the mind is most receptive and reinforced through specific actions that bridge the gap between thought and physical manifestation. The 5-day morning ritual I will outline for you represents the most efficient method for implementing this profound wisdom and beginning the transformation from where you are to where you truly desire to be. As Hill himself wrote after interviewing the most accomplished individuals of his era, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But this achievement begins not with external action, but with internal programming during those precious first moments when you open your eyes to a new day. The astonishing power of this 5-day morning ritual begins with understanding a fundamental principle that Napoleon Hill emphasized throughout his life's work. The human mind can achieve whatever it can conceive and believe. This is not mere positive thinking. It is the practical application of mental laws that operate with the same precision as physical laws. Just as electricity transforms from invisible energy to visible light, when properly channeled, your thoughts transform from invisible potential to visible circumstances when properly directed. The ritual I am about to share creates the ideal conditions for this transformation process by aligning your conscious desires with your subconscious beliefs during that golden moment when the mind transitions between states of consciousness. Hill observed this phenomenon repeatedly during his research. Individuals who had mastered this morning mental programming invariably demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to recognize opportunities, attract necessary resources, and persist through obstacles that would defeat others with similar external capabilities but different internal conditioning. Most people unwittingly sabotage their success during the first moments of wakefulness. They allow random thoughts to flood their minds, worries about the day ahead, lingering concerns from yesterday, or vague anxieties about the future. These scattered thoughts act as seeds planted in the fertile soil of the morning mind, and the law of mental harvests ensures they will bear fruit of the same nature later in the day. The successful minority, by contrast, jealously guard these precious morning moments and use them with strategic intention. They recognize that just as a magnifying glass must focus scattered sunlight to produce fire, the mind must focus scattered thoughts to produce achievement. The first component of our 5-day ritual, therefore, is to awaken with purpose and immediately direct your thoughts toward your definite major purpose before any other influence can intrude. This practice creates what Napoleon Hill called a money consciousness, though the term applies not merely to financial prosperity but to any form of abundance you wish to manifest in your life experience. When you open your eyes each morning for these 5 critical days, you must immediately reach for the written statement of your definite major purpose that you will place beside your bed the night before. This statement, crafted with precision and emotional power, becomes the first impression upon your waking mind. Napoleon Hill discovered that the subconscious mind, which works continuously while you sleep, is most receptive to new instructions during this transition to wakefulness. Read this statement aloud with feeling and conviction, affirming not merely what you wish to achieve, but declaring with absolute certainty that you are already in the process of achieving it. Feel the emotion of gratitude for its accomplishment as though it were already complete. This initial act of focused attention bypasses the critical faculty of the conscious mind and plants your desire directly into the fertile soil of the subconscious, where all lasting change must begin. Hill documented numerous cases where this simple practice, performed consistently each morning, led to dramatic transformations in circumstance, often through what appeared to outside observers as lucky breaks or fortunate coincidences, but were in fact the natural operation of mental law responding to deliberate programming. The second phase of this transformative morning ritual harnesses what Hill called the principle of auto-suggestion, the agency through which every stimuli reaching your mind through your five senses is classified, recorded, and dispatched to its final destination in your subconscious. Standing before a mirror, look yourself directly in the eyes, the windows to your soul, and speak your self-directed commands with absolute conviction. These are not casual affirmations but authoritative instructions to your deeper mind. Declare, I know I possess the ability to achieve my definite purpose. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action toward its attainment. I will never consider the possibility of failure. The power lies not merely in the words but in the emotional conviction with which they are delivered. Your subconscious mind responds primarily to two things: repetition and emotion. By combining both elements in this ritual, you begin to reshape your self-image at its core, eliminating the hidden doubts and fears that have previously limited your expression. Napoleon Hill discovered that this mirror technique was particularly effective because it engaged multiple senses simultaneously. Seeing your own eyes, hearing your own voice, feeling the vibration of your spoken words, creating a powerful multisensory impression that accelerated the acceptance of new beliefs by the subconscious. The third component engages your entire physiology to reinforce your mental directives, creating what Napoleon Hill called a spiritual, mental, and physical rebirth during each day. For 5 minutes, engage in vigorous physical movement that floods your system with energy and vitality. This is not mere exercise, but a physical declaration of your intention to live with greater intensity and purpose. As you move, breathe deeply and rhythmically, imagining each breath drawing in not merely oxygen but spiritual energy that Hill called infinite intelligence. Feel this universal creative force flowing through you, energizing your body, clarifying your mind, and strengthening your resolve. This physical component creates a state of heightened awareness where your affirmations and visualizations penetrate more deeply into the subconscious, accelerating the reprogramming process and creating a bridge between mental conception and physical action. Hill observed that the most successful individuals invariably maintained high levels of physical energy and vitality, not through chance, but through deliberate practices that integrated bodily movement with mental direction. This morning, physical activation ensures that your newfound mental clarity translates into decisive physical action throughout your day. The fourth element of this ritual activates your creative imagination, what Hill described as the workshop where all plans are created. Close your eyes and create a vivid, detailed motion picture of yourself already in possession of your desire. Experience all the sensory elements of this achievement, not as a distant possibility but as a present reality. What do you see, hear, feel, and touch in this realized state? Who surrounds you? What emotions course through your being? The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual events. Both create the same neural patterns and emotional responses. By repeatedly experiencing your success through controlled imagination, you create a template that your subconscious mind begins to accept as reality, compelling it to find ways to bring your external circumstances into alignment with this internal vision. This is not fantasy, but the highest application of mental law. The same process used by every inventor, artist, and builder before their creations manifested in physical form. Napoleon Hill documented this practice among countless achievers, including Thomas Edison, who reportedly would visualize his inventions in complete detail before a single physical component had been assembled. Similarly, Henry Ford visualized his entire production system before implementing it, seeing in his mind's eye the revolutionary assembly line that would transform manufacturing forever. The fifth phase introduces what Napoleon Hill called the mastermind principle, the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. During these 5 mornings, take 5 minutes to connect mentally with those individuals, both living and deceased, whose qualities and achievements you most admire. Imagine a council chamber where you sit at the head of a table, surrounded by these chosen mentors. Pose your most pressing questions related to your definite purpose and listen for their guidance. Engage in mental conversation with these figures, drawing upon their wisdom, courage, and perspective. Though this exercise occurs entirely within your imagination, it activates deeper levels of intuition and connects you with what Hill called the universal storehouse of knowledge, accessible to all who approach it with sincere purpose and receptive minds. This practice also begins to reshape your self-concept as you increasingly identify with the qualities of greatness that your chosen advisors embody. Hill himself admitted to conducting regular mental meetings with his own invisible counselors, including Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Edison, and Ralph Waldo Emerson, a practice he credited with providing solutions to complex problems and inspiration during periods of doubt or uncertainty. The sixth element of this transformative ritual addresses what Napoleon Hill identified as the greatest obstacle to success: fear. Each morning during these 5 days, identify one specific fear that has limited your progress toward your definite purpose. Write this fear on a piece of paper in specific terms. Perhaps it is the fear of criticism, the fear of poverty, or the fear of failure. Once identified, deliberately refute this fear with a written statement of fact that contradicts it. If you fear criticism, write, "The opinions of others cannot affect my ultimate success unless I permit them to do so through my own thoughts." If you fear failure, write, "Temporary defeat is not permanent failure, but merely a signal to strengthen my plans and persistence." Then ceremonially destroy the paper containing your fear. Tear it, burn it safely, or dissolve it in water as a physical representation of its diminishing power over you. This ritual act speaks powerfully to your subconscious mind, convincing it that these limitations no longer exist in your personal reality. Napoleon Hill documented the paralyzing effect of fear on human achievement throughout his research, noting that fear is nothing more than a state of mind that can be transformed through deliberate practice. This morning ritual confronts fear directly at its source, in your thought patterns, before it can manifest as hesitation, procrastination, or self-sabotage during your day. The seventh component engages what Napoleon Hill termed infinite intelligence through the power of definite prayer. Regardless of your religious background, these morning moments provide an opportunity to connect with the greater wisdom and power that transcends individual capability. Hill discovered that the most successful individuals maintained a humble recognition of forces beyond themselves, combined with the confidence that these forces operated through them toward constructive ends. Offer gratitude for 3 specific blessings in your life, acknowledging that gratitude itself is a powerful attracting force that brings more circumstances worthy of gratitude. Then, reaffirm your definite purpose not as a petition, but as an expression of faith in its inevitable manifestation through your willing partnership with universal principles. Close this prayer by declaring your readiness to receive guidance throughout the day. The hunches, intuitions, and inspired ideas that often represent your highest form of guidance. Napoleon Hill observed that the most accomplished individuals in history, regardless of their formal religious affiliations, maintained this practice of spiritual connection, recognizing that human intelligence alone was insufficient for the highest forms of creativity and achievement. This morning, prayer establishes a receptive mental state that allows what Hill called infinite intelligence to work through you rather than you working merely through your own limited understanding. The 8th phase of this morning ritual establishes what Napoleon Hill called the habit of going the extra mile. Before concluding your morning practice, identify one specific action you will take today that exceeds what is expected of you, something that delivers value beyond what you are compensated for, something that benefits others while simultaneously advancing your definite purpose. This planned act of exceptional service activates the law of increasing returns that Hill found operating in the lives of all truly successful individuals. By consistently rendering more service than that for which you are paid, you set in motion forces that eventually compel greater recognition and reward. More importantly, this habit develops qualities of character essential for sustained success: initiative, creativity, leadership, and the capacity to see opportunities where others see only obligations. By deciding upon this extra-mile action during your morning ritual, you program your reticular activating system to notice opportunities for exceptional service throughout your day. Napoleon Hill documented this principle in operation throughout his research, noting that every individual who achieved lasting success invariably practiced it. From Andrew Carnegie's exceptional commitment to his customers, to Thomas Edison's tireless experimentation far beyond what immediate results might have justified. The 9th element incorporates what Napoleon Hill identified as the habit of all great achievers: prompt decision-making. During each of these 5 mornings, identify one decision that you have been postponing, one that relates directly or indirectly to your definite purpose. Perhaps it involves a conversation you've avoided, a commitment you've hesitated to make, or a project you've delayed beginning. Make this decision definitively during your morning ritual. Write it down with the specific action steps it requires, and commit to implementing it that very day. Hill's research revealed that successful individuals make decisions quickly and change them slowly, if at all, while unsuccessful individuals make decisions slowly and change them frequently. By practicing decisive action during your morning ritual, you develop what Hill called the habit of decision, a quality that builds confidence, encourages respect from others, and accelerates your movement toward your ultimate aims. Napoleon Hill observed this quality in operation when studying Henry Ford, who was known for making monumental business decisions with remarkable speed once sufficient information was available, in stark contrast to his competitors who often delayed action while seeking perfect certainty, a luxury that aggressive achievement rarely permits. The 10th component establishes what Napoleon Hill called a positive mental attitude that recognizes no limitations. Before concluding your morning practice, read a pre-selected passage from literature that inspires and elevates your thinking, perhaps from Hill's own works or from philosophers, spiritual texts, or biographies of those who have overcome great obstacles. This reading is not merely intellectual, but designed to lift your emotional state to one of absolute conviction in your ability to achieve your definite purpose. As you prepare to engage with your day, make a commitment to maintain this elevated mental state regardless of external circumstances. Determine that no person, event, or temporary setback will disrupt your positive mental attitude throughout the coming hours. This final phase completes the reprogramming of your mental and emotional patterns, establishing a protective barrier around your newly planted thought seeds until they can take root and begin producing visible results in your external circumstances. Napoleon Hill emphasized this protective function of positive mental attitude, noting that achievement requires not merely planting the right mental seeds, but guarding them against the weeds of negativity, doubt, and fear that constantly threaten to choke their growth before maturity. The power of this 5-day morning ritual extends far beyond the immediate psychological benefits it provides. When practiced with consistency and conviction, it initiates a fundamental rewiring of your mental processes that continues throughout your day and even during sleep. Napoleon Hill discovered through his extensive research that the human mind never truly rests. Even during sleep, it continues processing information, sorting experiences, and preparing for future action. By deliberately programming your mind each morning with clear instructions aligned with your definite purpose, you influence this ongoing mental activity in directions that support your goals rather than undermine them. During these 5 consecutive days, you will likely begin noticing subtle but significant changes in your perceptions, emotions, and behaviors. Synchronistic events that seem to support your purpose, solutions to previously confounding problems arising spontaneously in your awareness, and a growing sense of certainty about your eventual success regardless of temporary obstacles or setbacks. This morning ritual also activates what Napoleon Hill identified as the psychological foundation of all achievement, a burning desire backed by unwavering faith. Each component of the ritual systematically strengthens both elements: desire through vivid visualization and emotional engagement with your definite purpose, faith through auto-suggestion, affirmation, and the daily evidence of small successes building upon each other. Hill discovered that this combination of desire and faith creates an irresistible force that overcomes all obstacles through what he called infinite intelligence. The universal creative intelligence that responds to clear mental demands backed by emotional conviction. By activating this force each morning before engaging with the external world, you position yourself to receive insights, recognize opportunities, and access resources that remain invisible to those operating from ordinary consciousness. The most successful individuals Hill studied all demonstrated this capacity to access extraordinary mental resources through similar morning practices, though few articulated the process as systematically as we are doing here. Furthermore, this 5-day ritual establishes what Napoleon Hill termed the habit of health, a holistic state of well-being encompassing body, mind, and spirit. The physical component activates your nervous system and circulatory systems, flooding your brain with oxygen and nutrients essential for optimal cognitive function. The mental components, visualization, affirmation, creative imagination, activate neural pathways associated with solution finding rather than problem dwelling, optimism rather than pessimism, possibility rather than limitation. The spiritual components, gratitude, prayer, connection with infinite intelligence, Activate your highest human capacities for meaning, purpose, and transcendence beyond immediate circumstances. Together, these elements create a state of integrated well-being that Napoleon Hill found invariably present among high achievers, not as a luxury they afforded themselves after success, but as a foundational practice that made their success possible by enabling them to operate at their full potential, despite external pressures and demands. Perhaps most significantly, this morning ritual establishes what Napoleon Hill called the habit of persistence, the capacity to maintain focus upon your definite purpose despite temporary defeats, obstacles, criticism, or apparent failure. By reaffirming your commitment each morning before external challenges arise, you develop the inner resources necessary to withstand what Hill called the knockout blows of life that invariably test every worthwhile achievement. The most successful individuals Hill studied all demonstrated this quality of persistence, often citing it as more important than intelligence, education, connections, or fortunate circumstance in explaining their ultimate success. Thomas Edison's thousands of failed experiments before perfecting the electric light bulb, Henry Ford's repeated financial setbacks before revolutionizing transportation, Andrew Carnegie's rise from impoverished immigrant to industrial titan, all exemplified this quality of persistence that this morning ritual systematically develops. By practicing this ritual for 5 consecutive days, you begin installing this essential quality into your mental operating system, replacing the habit of surrendering to obstacles with the habit of transcending them. The cumulative impact of these 5 morning rituals creates what Napoleon Hill called a success consciousness, a fundamental shift in how you perceive yourself and your relationship to the external world. Rather than seeing yourself as subject to circumstances, you begin recognizing yourself as a creative force capable of influencing circumstances through the power of directed thought and purposeful action. Rather than perceiving obstacles as reasons to abandon your purpose, you begin recognizing them as necessary tests that strengthen your character and clarify your approach. Rather than viewing success as dependent primarily on external factors, economic conditions, the actions of others, available opportunities, you begin recognizing it as the natural outgrowth of internal factors. Your dominant thoughts, emotions, and beliefs consistently held and expressed through corresponding actions. Napoleon Hill observed this shift in consciousness as the common denominator among all high achievers, regardless of their field of endeavor, educational background, or starting circumstances. This 5-day morning ritual accelerates this shift by focusing your attention systematically on the mental causes of achievement, rather than merely its physical effects. This morning ritual also establishes what Napoleon Hill identified as the mastermind principle within your own consciousness, the harmonious coordination of knowledge and effort between different aspects of your own being. Within each person exist different mental and emotional faculties that often work at cross purposes, creating internal conflict that wastes energy and defeats achievement. The conscious mind may desire success while the subconscious harbors doubts about worthiness or capability. The intellect may devise excellent plans while the emotions remain insufficiently engaged to provide the necessary motivation for implementation. The higher self may recognize the value of long-term investment, while the immediate self demands short-term gratification. This morning ritual systematically aligns these different aspects of your being toward your definite purpose, creating internal harmony that manifests as external progress. Napoleon Hill observed this internal alignment as characteristic of all high achievers. They had eliminated the self-sabotage that results from internal conflict, directing the full force of their being toward their chosen aims. This 5 days of morning practice begins establishing this alignment as your new normal operating state. What you have just discovered is nothing less than the master key to personal transformation, a systematic process for reprogramming the most powerful force in the universe, your own mind. These 5 morning rituals, practiced faithfully for just 5 days, contain within them the distilled wisdom of 500 of history's most accomplished individuals whose lives Napoleon Hill studied with meticulous attention. Yet, knowledge without application remains mere potential, suspended in the realm of possibility rather than manifested in the world of achievement. The question now before you is not whether these principles work. Their efficacy has been demonstrated through countless lives transformed, but whether you possess the quality that Napoleon Hill identified as essential to all achievement. Definiteness of purpose combined with persistence sufficient to overcome temporary defeat. These morning rituals present an opportunity not merely to learn about success principles, but to embody them through consistent practice, allowing them to reshape your neural pathways, emotional responses, and ultimately your external circumstances through the natural operation of mental law. Consider carefully what is now within your grasp. Through the deliberate application of these morning principles, you stand at the threshold of a new reality, one where your thoughts, aligned with natural law and infused with emotional power, begin reshaping your external circumstances with mathematical precision. The dreams you have carried within you, perhaps dismissing them as mere fantasy when viewed through the lens of your current limitations, can now be approached as engineering projects with definite blueprints and reliable methods of construction. Napoleon Hill observed that every failure carries within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, and every obstacle serves as a necessary testing ground for developing the qualities of character essential to substantial achievement. Armed with this 5-day ritual, you now possess the means to extract that benefit and develop those qualities with systematic efficiency. These are not theoretical abstractions, but practical tools that have transformed indigent immigrants into industrial leaders, obscure inventors into household names, and ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers throughout history. The same principles that elevated them can elevate you, provided you apply them with the same diligence and persistence they demonstrated. What separates those who achieve lasting success from those who merely wish for it is not talent, education, or fortunate circumstance. It is the ability to maintain unwavering focus upon a definite purpose, despite temporary setbacks. The morning ritual you have learned serves as both compass and anchor during inevitable storms of doubt, fear, and adversity. By controlling the first moments of your day, you control the quality of your thoughts. By controlling your thoughts, you control your emotions. By controlling your emotions, you control your actions. And by controlling your actions, you ultimately control your destiny. This progression, from morning ritual to life mastery, represents the essence of Napoleon Hill's philosophy distilled into a practical system anyone can apply regardless of their current situation. The bridge between your present reality and your desired achievement is not merely time, but the consistent application of these transformative morning practices. As Hill observed throughout his research, the distance between average achievement and extraordinary accomplishment is rarely a matter of capacity, but almost always a matter of systematic application of these fundamental principles, beginning with the deliberate programming of your mind during those golden morning moments when your subconscious is most receptive to new directives. The transformation you seek will not occur through passive hoping, but through active application of the principles you've now discovered. Napoleon Hill frequently emphasized that knowledge is not power until it is organized and expressed through definite action. The 5-day ritual outlined here provides that organization, a systematic framework for applying universal principles in a sequence that maximizes their effectiveness. But the action must come from you. No one can do your push-ups for you, as the saying goes, and no one can implement this morning ritual on your behalf. The miracle of transformation occurs not in learning these principles, but in living them with religious consistency during those 5 critical days, allowing no excuse to prevent their application. What you have received is not merely information, but a tested blueprint for activating dormant mental forces that have remained undeveloped in the majority of individuals throughout history. Napoleon Hill observed that most people live far below their potential not because of inherent limitations, but because they never systematically activate their highest mental faculties in service of a definite purpose. This 5-day morning ritual provides the activation sequence, a precise method for awakening latent abilities and directing them toward specific, achievable outcomes through the power of focused attention and emotional engagement. And remember, above all else, this fundamental truth that Napoleon Hill discovered through his decades of research. You become what you think about most consistently, and these early morning moments shape the direction of your thinking throughout the day. By controlling these critical transition periods between sleep and wakefulness for 5 consecutive days, you establish new neural pathways and emotional patterns that begin generating different results with the reliability of cause and effect. The outer conditions of your life invariably conform to your predominant inner thoughts and beliefs, not immediately, but inevitably. This 5-day ritual accelerates that conformity by systematically replacing limiting thoughts with empowering ones, fear with faith, confusion with clarity, and hesitation with decisive action. The greatest benefit comes not merely from temporary results, but from the permanent installation of success habits that continue working for you long after the initial 5-day period. Napoleon Hill observed that achievement is less about individual heroic efforts than about establishing the right mental and emotional habits that produce excellence as their natural expression. This morning ritual installs those habits at the deepest level of your being, where they can operate automatically to guide your perceptions, decisions, and actions throughout each day. I challenge you now to make an unbreakable appointment with yourself for the next 5 mornings. Commit with the same seriousness you would bring to meeting the most important person in your field of endeavor. For in truth, these morning meetings with yourself, with your highest potential self, represent the most consequential appointments you will ever keep. Napoleon Hill discovered that every great achievement begins with a single decision. The decision to try, to begin, to take that first step despite uncertainty about the entire journey. Your decision to implement this 5-day morning ritual could well be remembered as the turning point that divided your life into before and after, the moment when you took control of your mental world and thereby gained the power to reshape your physical circumstances. If this message has stirred something within you, if you feel even a glimmer of recognition that these principles contain the key you've been seeking, then honor that intuition by taking immediate action. Your new life awaits you with the dawn of tomorrow's morning. I invite you to like this video, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe to join our community of achievement-minded individuals who are applying these timeless principles to create extraordinary lives. Remember, it is not what you know, but what you do consistently that ultimately determines your destiny. As Napoleon Hill himself wrote after decades studying the most accomplished individuals of his era, Action is the real measure of intelligence. And your intelligence will be measured not by your understanding of these principles, but by your application of them beginning tomorrow morning as the first rays of dawn herald not merely a new day, but potentially a new life direction guided by these transformative practices.